Welcome back everybody, this is Awais back with another video on the channel. This is going to be the 10th part of our IONIC workshop tutorial series in which we're creating this expense tracker application. Let me quickly give you a quick walkthrough what this application do. In the user interface, we got the dashboard page and we got account page. Account page has this reset data button, which basically cleans up the data for your application. In the dashboard page, we have this plus button, which I'm going to click on, and I can add an expense. So let's just say 10, add a description, select a type, click on add, and you will see an expense there in the dashboard page. Now we can filter our expenses by date. So let's just say the expense I'm adding now will be added to today's date. So here we got this date filter. I can go back to the date, click on done, and you don't see any expense here. So if I go back to date 11, click on done, and I'll get that expense back. We can click on today to go to the current date, and also we can filter out the category. So right now we got this rent category. I'm going to click on plus button and add another expense. Let's add some description, and I'm going to choose a type as games. Click on add, and now I'm going to click on this category button, click on game, click OK, and you only see the games expense. I can go to click on all, click OK, and I get all the expenses. So this is where we are at right now with this application. I have a plans to improve this and add much more functionality, including the login registration system. Now this is going to be the 10th part of the video series. Before we start the video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up if you like it. And also, if you want to help me out, you can help me out by donating. There's a PayPal link in the description of the video. If you think this video series has helped you, you can just, help me out by donating, because I'm putting a lot of time to create all this content and making it available on YouTube for free. So yeah, so let's get started with our application. First thing, we need to change the value of $500 to what are the total of the today's. Next, we're going to change the text of category to type. We're going to implement action sheet, which will bring up the action sheet where we can select different types of filter. One filter that I would like to add is show me the highest amount I spent today. That's mainly for our, amount, but also this filter button will have a lot more filters later on. So we're going to set up the base of how we can set up action sheet with IONIC. So let's go to the code. First of all, we're going to go to a dashboard. So here is our total 500. Okay, static value $500 symbol, but I would like to create a function or some way I would like to add up the today's expenditures and show the value here. Many different ways we can have a total value here, but the way we are creating application and managing data is through AutoJS, mainly behavior subject. So what I would like to do is create another one from a data service and then subscribe to it. So first of all, let's go to a data service, and here I would like to create a private read only. I will say today total. So we got this today's total expenses. That would be a number type. Now a number type, but we're trying to create this as, let's just say behavior subject, and then a number type there. And now in the constructor functions, we're gonna do this dot today's total, new behavior subject, and initial value we can pass it a null. We need to create a subscription to it, so we can say get today total subscription, and that would be behavior subject and number type, not null, number. And here we are going to return this dot today's expense. So now we're returning this. Here I've got this spelling mistake, so subscription. Let's save the file, and now we are going to create a setter as well for this. So first of all, let me just go and create this behavior subject, and then we're going to do set total expenses. Actually, we can just say today. So we keep the name consistent for the function, and that's actually not going to return anything. So we do promise void and make it async function, and this is going to say return this underscore today's total dot next, and it's going to take a number. So we say total, and that would be a number, and then we can pass that total there. Okay, we got a subscription, and also we got this today's total, set today total expense as well. Now we are going to first of all subscribe to it in our dashboard, so we can do a subscription here on IONIC. So we can first of all go up there, and here we got this date subscription and then subscription. I'm going to go and create this another, let's just say total subscription, and that would be subscription like, and then we can say today's total, or we can just simply today's total, and that would be a number. Okay, in our constructor function we are going to say this dot today's total, and we can set that value to null initially when it gets constructed, and then we are going to use here this dot total subscription equal to this dot data service dot get today's total subscription, and we are going to use this subscribe method, and then it will take in an object, and I'm just gonna copy paste this bit so I don't have to type it over and over, and I'm going to get rid of this to, as I say, total, and that would be number type. Let's get rid of this bit, and then we can say this dot today's total equal to today total. So actually total, just total. Okay, in the code we need to actually set the total and emit that, right? Now the best place I would say is action service. So let's go to action service, and here we got this create expense. We got this get total expense from local. This is where it gets, you know, the first time. Now, before we return this, I would like to actually emit the total from here. So what I can do here, once we get the total from a local, okay, I would like to create a function here which says calculate total. So I'm going to go to action service here, and we can say async. Actually, not async. We don't really need to create an async function. To name my function calculate today total, and this should expect expenses. And do we have a type for that? So we got the expenses interface, and that would actually grab an array for that, and it should return a number as, you know, return type. So we got an expenses, create a variable const. I'm going to say total equal to, for example, 0. A loop on expenses. So we use for statement. I'm going to type const expense of expenses, and then here we got all the expenses. So I'm going to use this total. We can say plus equal to expense dot amount. Once we calculate or add all the expenses in a total, we're just going to return a total. Okay, now in action service I would like to run a test for this. So here it says action service assigned to total because it's a constant. That's correct, so we're gonna change this to let. Okay, now that should fix the problem. I'm going to run a quick test, so we'll do npm run test. I want to make sure that all of our tests are created properly, So we got our action service and data service, everything is actually getting created. So if we have any problem in the test, we would like to fix them as well. And I would like to run a test of this action service, this one where we have this, you know, this function. So let's go and write a test for this function. So I'm gonna go and open the spec file of action service, and I'm gonna, let's open it on the right. We're gonna close that here. So I'm going to create an instance of action service. So action service is getting created. That's good. So we'll say it, and expectation should be, should add all the expenses. Okay, then it's gonna have an assertion, and here first of all let's just create a total, or I'm gonna say expected total, and we can set that value to, let's just say 10. All right, and then I'm going to create an expenses, and I would like to create an array, and that would be a type of expense interface. So we say expense interface, and that's an array. So here we're going to have an IntelliSense now. I'm going to type an amount of this, let's just say 5, and then type, let's just say games, that would be string. Then we have a create on. I'm going to create a new date right there, and then we have a description. I'm just gonna say this is the description. Okay, and I'm gonna just copy and paste this expense one more time. All right, so we got that, you know, expenses. I'm gonna change this to just say mark expenses. Now after that, once we are done with mark expenses, I'm going to use this action service. I'm going to say this, actually just a service. So I'm going to copy this line of code, and here we get an instance of a service, and I'm going to use this service dot calculate today's total expenses. I'm going to pass in mark expenses, right? And I would like to expect some actual values. So I'm going to say const actual total equal to this. Okay, and then here we're going to use expect, and I'm going to say expect actual total to equal expected total. Okay, now we are going to go back to terminal, and I'm going to run a test again. So let's run a test again, and this test should pass. So what we're doing here is we are passing this 10 as a total, and here we're expecting 10 as back from this function. And here we have this action service. It says should add all the expenses. And I'm going to log this bit. So I'm going to say console.log actual total, console.log expected total. And now let's take a look at the browser, not this one. Oops. So here's our browser. Now we're going to open up developer tools. We got this console, and here we're getting 10 twice. So that means our test is passing. I'm just going to get rid of this. So we got this unit test covered for this particular function. And now we need to use this. Before we use this calculate today function, I would like to point out a couple of things in a dashboard component. So here in our constructor function, we are initially getting all the expenses directly from local storage without going through a data service observable. So we're going to have to fix that. I'm actually going to just get rid of this bit for now. So let's just do comment, and I'm going to go to action service, and this was the function that was getting called. So I'm not going to return anything from here, so I'm just going to change this to void. Okay, now once I grab those expenses, I would like to use a data service, so we'll say this dot data service dot set expenses, and I'm going to pass in expenses there. Okay, and this way I will actually use observable instead of this direct access to our code. Now I'm going to call this function in our constructor when the action service is getting generated. I'm going to start this dot get today's expenses from local, and let's just leave that here. So here we're gonna call this or invoke this function. Now I'm not going to call this right now, so I'm going to go to here. Let's refresh our application. Once we refresh, you can see we're getting the today's total. Let's click on plus button, and I'm going to say, well, let's just say 15, and we're going to add a description. This is demo expense. I'm going to select the type to, let's just say gift, add, and we got that. If I refresh the page, you can see the data is still loading. So we fixed a major flaw in our application. We basically was actually grabbing storage, grabbing expenses from storage directly, which basically is not the right approach because we have observable which actually pushes the data anyway. So I'm going to get rid of this line. Now here in our action service where we're setting the expenses, we would like to calculate those as well. Now the best way to actually trigger that event would be going into data service, and here we are setting these today's total. So we've got this function here. So here when we grab the expenses or expense or whatever is that, we're actually going to calculate the total and invoke that total as well. Now because I just noticed the best way we could do it, instead of using the action service and we had to add that into constructor function, that would cause a cross origin, or let's just say a service into service, and that would cause a problem in the terminal. So what I'm going to do is just quickly move this function. So I'm just going to cut this function and put that directly in the data service because it is doing some manipulation on the data. Now I'm going to go to action service spec file, and I'm gonna cut this spec as well. Go to data service spec file, and I'm going to paste that here. Okay, now here because we have this data service, so I'm gonna go to get this testbed get. I'm gonna use a data service instead of action service because the calculate today total doesn't exist on that. So I'm going to use the data service there, and that should solve this problem because this service has a data service. Change this to here as well, and let's get rid of data service import. Okay, now if I run the test should pass. So here we got this test running. I'm gonna just stop the test. I'm gonna say run test. And now a few of the tests might fail, as I can see here in the dashboard component. So we'll fix them right now. Okay, we have actually 0 spec failed, so which is good. All our tests passed. We have a data service calculate function test passed as well. Now I'm gonna go to data service, and here we got this set expenses. I'm going to call this dot set today's total, and I'm going to take this dot calculate total. I'm going to pass in expenses, and this way we will have a total triggered as well. So we will emit that right here. Whenever we create an expense, it will actually go and emit the total as well. Verify that. Now here we got all the expenses, and here I can see we got 249 today's total. Click on this plus button. I'm going to add another 50 there. Let's add for like just a game. Click on add, and now we adding these totals as well to 99. So there you go, our total is working now. We got a category name to change now. So let's go to the code, we go to dashboard, HTML file, and here we got this category. Let me just find that. So here we got the category right here. I'm going to change this to type. Let's verify we have a type now. That's all good. Now next thing what we need to do is create an action sheet from this filter button. So we're going to do that next, but before we do that, let's just test our application for all the things. So I just got rid of all the storage, and I'm going to refresh the application. I'm not expecting any total or any expense. Now here I found a problem because this total is actually 0, and it caused an error. It says expense is not tradable. This is because in our data service we're just saying it is an expense and it's getting called. So we're gonna have to type if there. So let's go back to the code and fix that problem right now. I'm gonna close some files. We don't need this data service, action service back, and here in this function I'm gonna say if expenses, then we can run this bit. Okay, let's save this file and let's go take a look at now. Now no errors, but here we want to have an initial value. So I'm going to go all the way up into data service, and here we are going to define initial value as 0. And let's verify that we have a 0 as initial value. Yep, that's good. Let's add an expense. I'm gonna say 50, add a description and set a type, add, and now we got a 50 there. That's cool. Our application has come a long way. Now let's work on action sheets. So I'm gonna take you to the documentation of IONIC action sheet, and here we need to import this Angular sheet controller. We're gonna have to inject that, and then I'm going to just copy and paste one of the example from here. So let's just copy this bit. We go back to our dashboard component, and I'm going to hide the terminal, and I'm gonna create an action sheet function there. We're gonna have to import, so we do private action sheet controller. Okay, we got that, and now we got this function all the way at the bottom, present action sheet. So I'm going to change that, says present filter action sheet. Okay, so I know what I'm just opening. So I'm going to go back to dashboard HTML, and we're going to find a button called filter, and I'm going to call an event on that. So that would be present filter action sheet. So let's verify that now. Let's click on a filter, and there you go. We got an action sheet now. So let's go in and change some stuff in our action sheet. So I'm going to go to dashboard, and the first button that I want to change would be price. Okay, and a role can be just destructive, but I think this is doing something. So let's go back to documentation, and here let's take a look at what are the role values and what they do. I am right now not able to find actually what the role does, so I'm going to change this to role if there is any information. So here it says the button role property can either be destructive or cancel. Buttons without role property will have a default look for the property. Okay, so what it's basically telling us is destructive button will have this kind of a reddish color, so we don't really need that. So let's go back to our code, and I'm actually going to get rid of this button completely. Okay, let's get rid of this button there. Now let's ident it properly, and the first button we're gonna name this by price, and we're gonna have an icon as price. So let's see what it does. So go back to the application, click on that, and here we got price, but without any icon. So to find an icon, we can go to an application, or actually website, IONIC cons. Okay, so I'm going to type price here, nothing come up. Price, so here we got money, so it says cash outline. If I type cash, what comes up? Okay, nothing's come up, so we do dollar. Now again, this, just the money or cash outline is there. Card outline, cash outline. Let me just go and find this manually. So if we can find something here which represents dollars or money. So here we got this, some sort of like a Bitcoin. We got this React, Internet Explorer, and here we got a dollar. So logo USD. So let's go and type that. So logo USD. I hope that's not capital. So let's go and verify this filter, and there you go. We got this price there. Next, we need to define another filter, which will be something like recent. Okay, we're not going to work on this filter in this video, but I'm going to go and find an icon first, and I'll just quickly finish that off first. So I will try an arrow button there somewhere. I'm not sure which one to use here, but let's just say this one. Okay, so cellular outline. So let's just paste that bit here. I'm going to get rid of. Okay, let's verify application, and here we got an action sheet, and I'm gonna get rid of these two buttons, so we don't need this favorite, and also we can have a cancel button, so just leave that there. Now we've worked on this total part of it. We have changed this category to type. We got this filter action sheet coming up. So we've done quite a lot in this video. So in the next video, we are going to work on creating these filters and do something with them. So let's just say filtering through the max amount that we can have. And also here we can have like a, minimum or maximum. We can have a toggle there as well. So yeah, let's work on that in the next video. In this video, that's about it. Maybe we can do one thing here. This bluish color through the application is not looking that great. So I'm going to change the color of this plus fab button. So for that, we're going to go to dashboard, and I'm going to find fab button there, and I'm going to give a color. So that would be success. I'm not sure what is the spelling of the success. So SUCCESS. So let's see if that's the color that gets changed. Yep, we got that color, greenish color there, right? Okay, that's the UI fix here. Another thing we can fix, which would be a quick fix here. So I'm going to go to add expense. Here we got this button as X. I'm just going to change this to an icon. So icon. Okay, and let's go and find an icon here, the cross icon from here. So let's just search for it. Cross, no. Cancel, no. I might have to manually look for that. So let me just go and find one. All right, this is the one we want. So here we got this close circle outline. Let's go back to the code. I'm gonna change to this. Let's save it, and let's take a look at that in our application. Click on this button, and here we got this happening. Now let's go back and change the color to, let's just say, fill as solid. Let's go take a look. That's a big button there. Let's just change this to just have a click event on dismiss model, and let's get rid of this. Okay, now let's take a look. We don't really need that button there, so we can have this just cross there. I'm gonna change the slot to end, and I'm gonna change the size to large. Let's take a look now. Okay, still a very small. So the reason for that, it's in a toolbar, so I'm gonna create ion item for that. Maybe it will work, maybe it won't. Let's give it a shot. Okay, now that's kind of worked, but it just actually moved things away. So finally, we're actually going to have to use the button, so that's okay with me for now. We're gonna worry about this UI later. So yeah, that's about it. And I'm gonna change the color of this to danger. We're gonna have a dark reddish color. There you go. That's good enough now for now. Okay, that's about it for this video, guys, and talk to you guys in the next one. If you want to help me out by donating, there's a PayPal link in the description. Also, if you require any development services, you can shoot me an email as well. Thanks for watching, and let's work on this application in the next video.